الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
So when I was asked about the topic to cover today, which was marriage in Islam, I had a few ideas of my own. I can go through this presentation and give the talk as is that talks about the duties of a husband and a wife and what does this marriage mean in Islam. Or you can go take another direction, which seems like some of you have shown interest in, to talk about how to navigate through the process of getting married. So I'll leave it up to you guys. Oh, you guys cannot hear me in the back? Okay. So let's go either way. Either way is fine. I'll see the hands if I can, but then I'll go accordingly. You would like to go, as I planned already, to talk about marriage in Islam, which talks about the duties of the husband and the wife, and what to expect and how to do some of the conflict resolution, or not necessarily the conflict resolution, but some suggestion and advice about how to resolve those conflicts. Because some of the questions that was presented last night that talks about also some of the conflicts that husband and wife can have, that could be because of the in-laws or because of their own conflict between husband and wife or whatsoever. So I'll leave it to you guys that if you like to go through the process of marriage, that will become more of a Q&A type. The questions that you guys have or the questions that are presented, Malik, you can let me know the question and I'll answer at that time. I mean, the one which you have, the survey or something that you guys have taken, I can go by that, or I can go by just talk about marriage in Islam. Anybody like to let me know which way to go? Marriage in Islam as rights and duties of the husband and wife, or you want to have simple Q&A about how to get married?
Guys, so you guys
your
want
chance.
to do, you guys want to do a Q&A about how to get married? More of that? Because probably what majority of us are kind of thinking about, maybe, is that true? Or that you want to learn more about, hey, once I get married, what kind of role and responsibilities do I have to have, my wife has to have, whatever it may be, and then things to watch out for.
And both are equally important, by the way.
Both are very important, that's why it's being presented. You guys want to talk more about, hey, how do I get married? Or more about, once I'm married, what do I do?
I feel like how to get married is
The process of navigation, how to get married?
yeah.
All right, so, and I think some of the questions were, how do you know that you are ready to get married also, right? Because before the how, normally people ask this question of, okay, am I really ready? And that goes from both sides, from the boy side, the guy side, and the girl side as well. When it comes to readiness, somebody is ready or not. Of course, once you are adult, you are mature Islamically, you can get married. Now, to know that if you as a person are ready or not, especially from the guy side, right, comes, and this is where it comes down to understand your duties, right? If you understand your duties, then you would know that, am I ready or not? Because are you ready to fulfill those duties that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has obliged over you once you are going to be a husband or a wife? So when we talk about somebody wants to get married from the guy side, first of all, of course, in Islam, when we talk about marriage is an institution between man and woman. To be very clear, that's how Islam defines it. Okay, living in current times, it's very important to just reiterate this fact, how Islam looks at the marriage. And now, when we talk about the obligations that husband has when he gets married, so we can tell if a person who wants to get married is ready or not, is he's the one who's the sole provider for the family that he's going to start with the wife. Now, wife and later on the children. So he is the sole provider. It's an obligation on the husband to provide the living, food, accommodation, cohabitation, whatever is needed for that, it is on the husband. Okay, it's an obligation placed by Allah Azza wa Jalla. So when Allah Subhanahu wa Taala talks about the obligation of وَعَاشِرْهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ, that and cohabit with them with goodness, and خَيْرُكُمْ لِأَهْلِ وَأَنَا خَيْرُكُمْ لِأَهْلِ. Rasulullah mentioned that best among you are the one who are good to their families, and Rasulullah said, I am the one who's the best with my family. So that's and Allah Subhanahu wa Taala has obliged the man to provide. So that's the obligation from the man's side. Now, this is a question that comes up all the time. Or can women also participate in that expense, living expenses and all those things? As I'm saying again and again, the obligation is on the husband. He is the one who's supposed to provide, and he is accountable in front of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. Now, when it comes to if the sister, she is a professional, she wants to work, and of course, whenever I'm saying work and all those things, which is all those things are happening in the halal manner. So this is a completely different discussion to discuss what is halal and what is haram in that case of the kind of work that you are choosing to do. And it goes for both men and women, right? So if she participates in any of this kind of assistance for living, it is kind of like a sadaqah that she's spending on the family. It is not an obligation on her. If she works, anything that the woman makes, the sisters make, that's theirs. They are not obliged to spend a penny on the family. Okay, so it's on the money that is coming in, that's there. At the same time, I want to clarify one more thing that I hear all the time, and this is, I don't know who started it, and I hear many of the speakers also say like this, oh, so when it comes to husband and wife, well, so whatever wife makes as hers, and whatever husband makes, that's also hers. That's not true, okay? So what husband makes as his, but it is an obligation on him to take care of the family. Okay, so now there's a right of the wife in the wealth of the husband because she should be taken care of, right? So the guy, when they're think of this way, okay? Of course, there's the mental maturity is involved, that you have to be mature in a manner that you are able to take care of a relationship, okay? Same thing goes for the sisters now. On the side of sisters, when it comes to husbands, so understand the husband's obligation. They are the one who's the caretaker of them, right? I'll go through quickly about some of the slides I'm showing you here. These are from the ayat and the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We will not go into too much detail because I want to go to the Q&A, right?
I have questions ready.
You have questions ready? Okay, that's good. So, but I want to give the highlight of it first, right? So these are the obligations. How are they coming up? الرجال قوامون على النساء. That the men are the charge of women. Now, in charge of women, قوامون, it is about talking about they are the caretaker, meaning providers, because Allah Subhanahu wa Taala has made them the providers for the family. Okay, and when it comes to, so I'm gonna skip that. When it comes to wife, so Rasulullah was asked, أَيُّ النَّاسِ عَادًا حَقًّا عَلَى الْمَرَأِ, that which person has the most right upon a woman? Rasulullah said, زَوْجُهَا, meaning her husband. And then it was asked, فَأَيُّ النَّاسِ عَادًا حَقًّا عَلَى الرَّجُلِ, and who has the most right over the man? It's the mother. Rasulullah said, it's the mother. So now, sometimes we will hear these kind of things about the conflict between the mother or wife and the mother-in-law. Yeah. So we have to know whose right belongs where, who has what right, and we are the one should be the one providing those rights, taking care of those rights. Because remember, all those things are linked to the accountability in front of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. When we talk about marriage in Islam, that means we're talking about the something that pleases Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. Otherwise, we'll be talking about other kind of marriages, not talking about marriage in Islam. We want to know about marriage in Islam because we want to please Allah Azza wa Jal. We want to make sure that that's an action that we are going to start, or the life we're going to start, that pleases Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. Otherwise, I mean, the society, the way it's set up today, probably haram is becoming much more accessible than to live a life according to the command of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. Even though it should be other way around. But because the society is not set up this way, this is how we are. So besides that, there is also, so there is an obedience of the wife towards the husband's obligation aspect of it, right? But remember that whenever we talk about obedience does not mean the husband can ask anything. right? The hadith of Rasulullah says, لا تعاتوا في معصية إنما تعاتوا في المعروف. The ta'a or the obedience is only in the goodness, the good things that are supposed to be done. And as a matter of fact, not only that, Rasulullah said in the hadith, which says that لا تعاتوا للمخلوق في معصية الله عز وجل, that there is no obedience where there is disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? So these things have to be kept in mind when we talk about the rights or the obligations that we have on the husband and the wife. Similarly, okay, I'll leave this here when it comes to obligations part. I think if there's any questions, I would rather go into those questions and answer and give you the answers this way. I think that will be more interactive, and I will be talking about subject or the questions that you have in your mind rather than I'll come up with the idea that I want to present, which is fine.
Can I offer something?
Yes.
Can I sit down and kind of
Yeah.
more of a conversation between
We can
us
put
two
two
and then
chairs and
picture?
sit down together
Whatever
and
it
do
may
that
be.
too. That's
I feel
fine.
like inshallah will be probably
Oh, you can come here in
people
the
are
middle.
interested in mine.
I'll just take it from here. That's fine.
Wherever you want. Where do you want me to sit? Okay.
Oh, you will not be seen here, yeah?
No, it's good.
You okay?
I got a question to start us off. So,
Wait. He's the moderator. He's gonna. Don't just start speaking, guys. Okay?
Okay.
I have to have somebody who will
I'm
moderate.
going to start off with something real quick. and then-
yeah, I can start off.
Okay, so the first question that I kind of have
Should
built.
I take this off?
I mean, yeah, sure. Okay, so first question that I have, especially as people in UICI, people in college, you just talked about the rights of the men and the rights of the women, correct? So the question now becomes is that how do we know when we are specifically ready for marriage, and kind of like what are certain deal breakers, certain requirements, certain visions that when we're looking for either a husband or a wife, what is it that we are supposed to look for? That's kind of the first question.
So obviously this question has multiple questions in it. It's not one question he's asking. One question in there is, when do we feel that we are ready to get married? One. Second one is, what are the deal breakers for when you're looking for a spouse? No, I'm good. For a spouse. It's easier for me to see what. When I said no, I could not do it. When it comes to the readiness, it has to be linked back to that a person, is he ready to fulfill the obligations that comes along with that an action that you are trying to undertake, which is the marriage. Yeah. And now marriage itself, as we know of, it's a sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. According to some of the fuqaha, in some circumstances, it may become obligatory as well. For them, if a person is going to commit haram, of course, it's rather that he gets married. That's one. Or other things that he's not capable of getting married at that time because of the obligations that come along with it. Then a man, for example, is always been asked to fast. Fast will become a shield against committing the sin. It's not that it actually creates a consciousness in your mind. Because one of the things about the fasting is it's not necessarily it's going to take away the desires. It's more of creates continuous consciousness in the mind that you are always remembering that you are even staying away from one of the basic necessities, which is food and drink, because of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that consciousness creates the taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala more and more, but the person feels closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it's easier for him to avoid any kind of temptations that he's going into. So now, the obligations that I mentioned for the guy's side, that of course that he's able to provide, that's one aspect of it, and from the sister side, it's they are also mature enough to understand that obedience and taking care of the house and the family that comes along with the marriage, and do they feel themselves that they are ready to commit themselves for that. And I'm not saying that will take you to become 30, 40 years old, then you will feel like you're committed. No, you're baligh, you are mature. You should be able to get married, but each case is different. I cannot just say what's the age that you are ready to get married, or is the degree that you have that make you get married, or is the amount of wealth that you have that means that now you're ready. You can You can find a spouse that will be happy with a very small amount of wealth. And you can find a spouse, you have millions, and that spouse may not be still not be happy with that kind of a wealth. So it all goes back to when you're choosing your spouse. And that, when you're talking about choosing, that goes for both husband and wife, right? Like the hadith of Rasulullah talks about that man marries for 4 reasons, right? One is the wealth of the woman, or the nasab, or the family of the woman, or the beauty of the woman, and the deen. And the hadith of Rasulullah says, whoever marries for other than the deen, his hands are in the dust, which is he's opening a door for destruction for himself. Now, does that mean that you cannot marry for other reasons? Of course you can marry. As we know of the hadith of Rasulullah that talks about even when a Sahabi wanted to get married, he asked him, did you see her? And he said no. And Rasulullah told him to go see her first before you are marrying her. So that is, attractiveness is part of getting married. So you should be attracted to each other. It's not a must also, but these are part of the marriage. And if somebody is rich, does not mean that you say, well, this person is rich, I'm not going to get married. No, the deen means that you are evaluating the spouse in a manner that you know that he has the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. At the end of the day, it is connected to, when you talk about the obligations on the husband, obligations on the wife, they are placed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they will only be fulfilled when the fear of Allah, the consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in the minds of the people. So that has to be there first to get into that, right? Now, what other part of it?
Just in terms in general, like deal breakers and
Yeah. So the deal breaker.
Vision, kind of like a vision you're supposed to have.
Yeah. I mean, a deal breaker means there are things that you want to do in your life. Of course, the key thing is, which is mentioned in the hadith of Rasulullah, which is the deen of the person, both sides, husband and the wife. That's a very important key thing. And I'm not talking about. And so sometimes people ask like this. Also, you mean you're looking for a person who is religious or mutadayyan? Yeah, this terminology we use. This is a very incorrect kind of a terminology that we use in Islam. We should not be thinking of each other like this. Oh, that person is not a practicing Muslim. No, we are Muslim. We should be practicing what Allah Subhanahu wa Taala has commanded. That's why we are Muslim. We are the one who submit to the will of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. So now you're looking for the person who has an Islamic personality, and it's very difficult. It's not that easy to evaluate sometimes, because like for example, we can be in a gathering like this. It's very easy to have the consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the gatherings where we are remembering Allah. But the thing is, can I just judge a person based on that, or do I need to do more than that, right? So, but the thing is that must be always the deal breaker. That's one aspect of it. Now, other things that you want to do to please Allah Azza wa Jalla. See, our lives should be always around pleasing Allah Azza wa Jalla. Okay, all of us Muslims, we should remember that our key goal in our life is to please Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, to worship Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, we have not created mankind or jinkind, but to worship me. That's our goal. It has to be always in front of our eyes. And I give an example, some of the brothers here who have heard this example saying it, but I want to make sure that the rest of you can hear and contemplate on that, which is, think of this way. If I ask you guys, what do you do? What is the first thing comes to your mind?
Your work or job usually.
Huh?
Your work or job.
Okay. What else? Sister side. Huh? Education. This side. Studying. Right now studying. Once the study is over, when you talk to people who are working, they tell you what they do for a living, right? Now, that is because of we are living in a time and a place that we have surrounded our life around these goals now, isn't it? Now, if I ask you guys another question, what did Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu used to do for a living? How many of us know? Probably some here and there, because you remember something, because the trade or something he did, or buying and selling. But how long did it take us? Right? Or if I ask Umar bin Khattab, even though these are big Sahaba, Abu Ubaidah bin Jarrah, Sa'ad bin Abi Waqqas, these are great Sahaba. The Sahaba who are referred as the one who are the people of the Jannah, Rasulullah gave them the glad tidings in this dunya. Yes? Sa'id bin Zayd radiallahu anh. These are also Sahaba, but we will not know why. But at the same time, if I tell you somebody, when the Battle of Tabuk was happening, Rasulullah was asking for helping one Sahabi, he brought half of his belonging from his home. Other one brought everything from his house, he left on the name of Allah and His Messenger. So who's the one who left his name on the left, brought everything and left the name of Allah and His Messenger? Abu Bakr, oh, subhanAllah, right away we know. So how do we recognize these Sahaba? Based on their connection to Islam, their seriousness towards Islam. Their life was around Islam. Right? So that's what you're looking for in the spouse. And if we ourselves are not one of those, we have to start thinking about ourselves. What is it? How is our life organized? Do we organize our life around what Allah wants? Or do we organize our life about my schooling and the wealth I can make or generate? And that's all the people do. And this is why you see the very same husband and wife, when they come to the retirement age, or the sister even not working, and when the children grow older, now they feel like they have nothing to do in their lives. That's very sad. That if we think this way, that after I am done with making money, I retire, I have nothing better to do. We continue to be slaves of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala until we die, until we meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hence, we should make our life around. Hence, we should be looking for a husband and wife this way. Deal breakers, you can make the deal breaker as this. Until I want the wife who will help me finish my med school. Or I want the husband who will help me to finish my dental school. Or the one who will help me to go to that country or that state so I can make more wealth. You can make that a deal breaker if you want. And some of them probably are allowed in Islam as well. But be serious. I would suggest from my end, be serious. Find a spouse who can help us to enter into Jannah. Husband or wife. Look for the one who can help us more. Play the role of a catalyst. Not the one who will be pulling me away from the Jannah. Rather, the one who's pushing me towards the Jannah. This is the kind of a husband or wife you're looking for. But for that, of course, all of us have to work on ourselves as well. So that these are the deal breakers I would suggest. The one who will help each other to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That should be the deal breaker. And it's a very simple one. The rest of the things automatically fall in place. Not saying don't work, I'm not saying don't study. All those things are part of life. You can study, you can go to work, and you can have children. At the same time, you can have very clear, dominant feature in there. You're doing all these things to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Is that making sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
You mentioned at the beginning that there are certain criteria for like having getting married being like fard on you, or like wajib, or like makruh and like haram. Like what are those situations?
So I said this is some of the fuqaha. They look at this way, right? In general, getting married is a sunnah. It's not a sin if somebody doesn't get married. If somebody's not married and he dies not getting married, does not mean, because when we say fard means if a person does not perform that action, that he is committing a sin. That's what I mean by that. You can be punished by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when we say something is haram, it means if you commit it, you will be held accountable by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you can be punished. I'm saying can be punished because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Ghafur Rahim. Allah, and you can do the tawbah for the haram that you have committed, and you can go back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the ruju, return back to Allah, and this is good. But about the thing is, those fuqaha, they go into the detail of it. If a person, he is tempted to the manner that he will fall into haram. Okay? And the society that we are living in, I don't have to explain to you, all of you are living in the society, you know how much the society exaggerates some of the things, these kind of temptations that pushes people to certain situations that you don't want to be in otherwise, unless you've been placed in the situation by force or by peers or peer pressure that you have around you. So if that's becoming a temptation to the point you may commit haram, then you should be looking for getting married or otherwise at least start fasting, so get away from these kind of temptations. Like that goes for both brothers and sisters.
Any question on the sisters?
Does that make sense? I'm not saying that this is an obligation. This is some of opinions like that.
Okay.
Okay.
So the next question that I kind of have is that, okay, I know that this is my deal breakers, but the issue becomes is that how do I go past just not judging on the outward appearance? Because that's kind of what we're stuck in. You can't really, kind of weird to go up and say to a person like, hey, how much do you practice Islam?
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff, especially first talk, especially when we know in Islam we were supposed to keep the talk to the opposite gender to the bare minimum.
Yeah.
So how do we go about doing that? And just in general, how do we approach a potential spouse and get to know?
So I think there is a mirage also. I want to talk about that first. That people think of it as if again, I'm trying to relate to things within the society that we live in. We see the things as norms, and unfortunately, in some cases, some of the Muslims try to show that this is a norm to be involved in these illicit behaviors, which Allah Subhanahu wa Taala condemns. What I'm going to say now is I think you guys can think yourself and you will come to the same conclusion that when boys and girls, men and women, they meet each other, right? Even when they are trying to get married, what they show of themselves is not, they always try to show the best out of them, correct? They dress up nice and come out in a manner that hides all the defects that they may have. They're not out there to show all the shortcomings they have. Rather, they try to show the best on themselves, right? Even social media. People, they have strange kind of outlook about the married life or something when they are looking at other people's married life through the social media. What they are putting on the social media outlets, whatever it is. If I say Facebook, you will say this is a whole guy talking about Facebook, right? But whichever kind of outlet is there for social media, whether it's Instagram, whether it's what is it? Anything else?
There's Instagram, there's
Not the WhatsApp, right? That's also too old.
no one uses WhatsApp.
But Snapchat, whatever those things are. But my point is, if you start evaluating the people's life based on what they have put out there in the social media, what are the things people put out there on social media? They're going on vacations and stuff like that. Whatever they dress nice, they go to wedding, or they this or that. Whatever the good they were doing, they put it up there. They don't know what's happening behind the doors. In the very same families who are putting themselves up like that, as if everything, whenever you get married, this is how the life goes. That's not true. Okay, all of them you can see issues. Even in the life, you can see the issues between the wives of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ummahatul Mu'mineen, we're talking about the best of the women, our mothers of the believers. You can see that how they had jealousy among themselves also. Or like Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anhu, when he found out that how Hafsa radiallahu anha, she used to talk to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam or talk back. Like when Umar's wife was talking back to Umar al-Khattab, and he got angry at her, and she said, go to look at your own daughter. She talks to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the point is, there are things, I'm not talking about insults or anything in any manner. Just to talk about is that you can see that this is a human behavior that you can find even among the best of ours also. So let's not think of it that there are no faults among each other. You can have faults again also. Now, about talking to the people, how do you find another person? So I try to negate first part of, don't think of it just talking will give you everything, okay? Or meeting will give you everything. Or even dating you will be able to really find out who the person is. Because all those such scenarios that people think that they are able to find things, actually most of the time you are fooled in those cases, because you are seeing something which is just the upside of something, and there's not natural relationship is happening at that time. Now, about that, to find out really, you have to see a person, or you need to find about the person when the person behaves in a natural manner, right? And the guys, when they are among the guys, they know how they behave with each other. They are different. The moment there are sisters in the room also, their behavior changes. I meet these guys separately sometimes, when sisters are gone, they are loud. I don't want to say obnoxious, but they can be they can be very loud. And sisters can be behaving differently when the only sisters are themselves, right? That's the reality of it. So if you want to know the reality, I would say, get your parents engaged, involved, have communication with them.
That's a good
Okay,
question.
open communication.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Like you get this a lot, but how do you even approach a person's wali, a person's parents?
Yeah.
And how do you even try to get them involved? It's kind of awkward. At least nowadays, unfortunately, it's kind of awkward to say, "Hey, give me your baba's number."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like it's difficult to do that. It's awkward to do that, especially because you don't want to go about first, sweet talking to the opposite gender and start talking here and there, get to know them first and see if they're interested and going through all that, and then say at the end of the day, as if you were already platonically dating, and then at the end of the day, like, now I want to get baba involved or the parents involved. You don't want to do that at all because we clearly know that's not allowed. That's haram. So how do you go about it where right in the beginning, it's clear that I'm reaching out to you with the intention of marriage, and I want to get the parents involved, doing it like correctly, where it's not awkward.
There are a couple of things he mentioned, and while he's asking the question, I want to make sure that everybody understands what those things are. For example, he said engaging with Wali. Wali normally refers to as the father or the guardian of the girl. Okay. Now, let's understand that approval of the Wali is also a must in the marriage. Okay. So the guy said, when the guy and the girl are getting married, the approval of the father or the guardian is a must as well. Okay, going to one of the hadith, the contract of the marriage is invalid if the wali's permission is not there. Okay, so there is no basement marriages that you go to fourth floor and get married, or first floor and get married, and nobody knows who got married to who. I mean, maybe you think this is funny, but unfortunately, I have heard stories like that as well. Not necessarily first floor, fourth floor, sixth floor. I'm talking about even basements. Okay, so the thing is, they have to be involved. I don't want to make it funny here. The idea is to understand that wali's permission is also a must. There's an ijab rule for offering and acceptance on both sides. So you cannot marry a sister also without her permission. It's not just the father's permission. The girl's permission is also important, right? Okay, so that's that. Now about how to approach that person that you're talking about. First, remember that if you want to gather information, there are ways to gather the information, right? Like I said, for example, somebody has a sister, and he can ask his sister to get the information or sister in, or reach out to his own mother and to find out if she can collect some information about the sister he might be interested in, right? So this is how you can get it. And now about the Wali phone number and all that, I think we are in the time and the era we are living in. Is it really difficult to get a phone number of anybody? No, really. I mean, to be fair, is it? I'm not saying go and make sister uncomfortable or a brother uncomfortable. You can get the number, but remember that it has to be a serious call for you to go and approach that kind of a thing. It should not be just fooling around and checking out each other. No, the issue is you are really serious. And if you remember that the concept here that we're discussing is marriage in Islam. So when you talk about marriage in Islam, we're talking about the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the conscience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You are there to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why you are taking the step of a marriage. Otherwise, I mean, there are people who are living without getting married for nowadays decades actually. And as the numbers that came out in the United States, about 40% of the people, they were saying that they don't want to get married. They're okay with the way things are. They don't even believe in this whole matrimonial ceremonies and this or that, and this is why nowadays even workplaces, they don't even you don't even have to say somebody is married to you to get all the benefits a household can get, for example, husband or wife. They just have to mention, oh, this is my domestic partner, and that's all that matters. You don't even have to mention the gender of the domestic partner anymore. It's more of a domestic partner. That's a reality. I mean, first, being in a FOB here and no clue what the domestic partner was the first time I heard, I was asking the guy, so there's a foreigner partner and domestic partner, and the guy told me, don't, there was a guy, he took me on the side, man, don't ask these questions, I'll explain to you later. So we know what it means here. So the point here is, when we are discussing this, go approach in the right manner, get it through the Wali, and get the number somehow, and get your parents engaged. Really, you will be able to get the questions that you have, deal breakers when you're talking about, in a right manner, in a serious manner. Even both the guy and the girl will be really serious about even giving the answers also. They will realize we're talking about man, real thing now. It's not just fooling around. You know what I'm saying? So as those questions you can talk to your going to be wife or the husband in a setting where the Wali of the sister is there in his presence. Once you are serious, go because you want to get married, not just for the heck of it. Be serious about this. Does that make sense?
Yeah, another question. Okay, so how do you balance that thought of not being like financially stable or ready to get married with like the ayah from Surah Noor where Allah says that if they're poor, then He'll provide for them?
Great question. So the aspect of it is, as I said in the beginning of it, it's an obligation on the husband to provide, right? Which is in more of a sense of he has to put the effort, right? When it comes to the rizq, it's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah is the one who provides. Allah is the one who provides us. And we can put as much effort as we want, whatever Allah has written, that's all we can get. Now, the point is, there's a sister or the wife who's married, let's say they're already married, and he's not able to provide. In that case, does she have the right to split away, which is called the khula, for example? She can ask for the khula. She has the right. At the same time, because the needs are not fulfilled, the obligations are not fulfilled from the other end, it's not because of he's not doing it, he's not as capable, or is not, so in that case, we have to look at the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that talks about, for example, Aisha has mentioned that there were times that for the whole month, the stove was not even, the fire was not started because they did not eat the cooked food. They lived off of dates and water. And if somebody gave them some meat, here and there, a little amount. So they continue to be with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, so this is better from the girl's side, from the wife, that she become patient in that scenario where it happened to be they don't have enough at that time, and Allah will provide. But it's not an obligation on the sister or the wife to stay there. Obviously, there's something better for the wife if she becomes patient and continue to wait for the decree from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No? Go ahead, what's the clarification you need? See, the idea is, what you're saying is Allah will provide, right? Allah is the only one who provides. Remember that. Allah is the only one who provides. But the thing is, we have to know that what are the rules about this? That, as I said, this is an obligation on the husband to provide. Now he is not able, he's not capable of doing something. In that case, should they continue to have, let's say, they are having difficult time with each other, the husband and wife are bickering, fighting with each other all the time because of the situation in the house, is that okay to be in that situation? Or if they have correct understanding about these kind of situations and they can be patient and continue to have a healthy life. But if it's not healthy, it's becoming problematic, in that case, it is allowed to go different ways as well. Okay.
Then I guess another question about previously about we were talking about how when you want to go and reach out and say you want to get married and you want to talk to that person. Now during that process in which you, assuming that you clearly said, hey, I'm reaching out to your parents and all this kind of stuff. I'm giving from the guy's perspective at the very least. But I'm going to reach out to your parents and whatever, you go into that process. During that time, before the aqd, the contract is made, is it allowed for me to go and talk to my potential spouse on my own time without the wali, without the parents being there, being there, or is it like, since I'm already in that process now, it's fine?
No. So no, that's not enough. The only thing that will make men and women mahram to each other will be that after the contract has been done. Besides that, if they want to know each other, then it will be in the presence of the wali. So you talk in the presence of it because of you are directly specifically asking the question that you want to ask, and you know the hadith of Rasulullah that talks about the issue of it is not allowed for a man and a woman to be alone, okay, in a seclusion, because the third person is a shaitan among them. So hence it is not allowed to be that situation. Also, the free mixing in general in Islam is not allowed, except the times and places where it is permitted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? For example, when you talk about the studies, or when you talk about going to the masjid, or you're talking about buying and selling, or you're in the workplace, but even within all those things, there's no seclusion involved. Okay? So those things, and there's a necessity based, there's a necessity when you're asking something, that's a different story. But that free mixing between the two genders is not allowed, who are not mahram to each other. Mahram means, for example, for a guy, his sister's mother's aunt's grandmother, or the wife of the father, who has, or could be the stepmother. These are the ones who are considered as mahram, other than them, they're not. Our daughters also, whatever. We don't mention daughters. And same goes for the sisters. Go ahead, son.
I had a question. I was just curious about. So, I know somebody who wants to, who's looking to get married, but her father passed away. So, if the parents were to meet, would that be any different if father was alive, or?
Yeah. So normally in Islam, the way it goes is there are different levels of guardianship that transfers to the uncles, could be the brothers, could be in some cases it could be a grandfather also. So any of those are available, then they become the guardian. If none of them are available, then Khalifa himself, a state in Islam, they can have some himself, or Amir al-Mu'mineen, or he can assign somebody to be the guardian of the person. But in general, it transfers from within the family members. Good question. And I can extend that to, in some cases, for example, a sister who becomes a Muslim. Now, the father is not Muslim. So in that case, a non-Muslim cannot be the guardian of the Muslim. So then in this case, somebody from the community can be the guardian for the girl. But still, there has to be a guardian in all those circumstances.
No.
Yes.
I was just wondering.
Ali or Ahmed?
Huh?
Ali or Ahmed?
Ahmed. How do you feel about the lately it's been trending about the one Muslim dating app, whatever? How do you feel about that?
So,
what do you think about it?
So to be true, I've never been to all those dating apps, so I don't know the dating apps themselves. But having said that, a friend of mine actually, he did open up some website actually that was for this purpose. And that brother actually, he started off for the purpose of second marriage. Second marriage means not necessarily he's looking for another wife. In our culture and stuff, unfortunately, there's a taboo if a person has been divorced, men or women, by the way. Unfortunately, for sister side, it becomes much bigger problem than the guy's side. Either way, there's nothing wrong, by the way. So if somebody's divorced, they should get married. That's not a big deal. You can see the lives of the Sahaba. There were many Sahabas who divorced their wives, and some other Sahabi married them also. So that should not be like that. Inshallah, in Sirah session, wherever is needed, I will talk about those specific examples also, so become more relevant. But dating apps. So the dating apps, if the purpose of those dating apps is to create situations which is for fahisha, for example, illicit behavior, or it just becomes more of a, like a boys meeting girls, that kind of stuff, or what's it called, fast dating kind of thing, that one table, lots of guys are sitting, lots of girls are sitting, and they just keep hopping from one chair to another chair. Of course, this is not the correct behavior, right? Same thing about the dating app, or not the dating app, but marriage apps. If the app is decent, they are not out there publishing pictures in an indecent manner or anything like that, or not to just use or abuse each other. Of course, that's okay. But you really have to navigate through. I personally, I'm not the expert in those apps, but I would suggest that if you want to go through that, be careful though. You may end up in situations where not necessarily this is the best thing to be in. Yeah. But if anybody have used that, he may be able to give more information. But maybe not. What I meant by that was, but I know for sure. Now it's dating apps like this. Before it used to be newspaper ads and stuff like that in my time. But in some cases, these are bad things, not necessarily a lot of them are not necessarily right. I would always suggest, obviously it's better to go through the people who you know them. It's easier. You will be able to get more information that way than the person you have no clue who the other person is. But this is one of the means to communicate. It's no different than talking to people. And remember that. Emails, phone calls, texting, this is all means of communication. So don't think of it, that's okay for us to talk to the sister or the brother. This is also a communication. Okay, it's no different than talking. Okay.
Can I add on one last comment through?
Yeah.
I want to comment on something.
Yeah.
Just as a general reminder, what I kind of think about this. So I could only have like 2 minutes left. But really what we just talked about today about marriage in Islam and how to get married and the process of getting married, the reason really why it is so important for us to have this solid foundation understanding beforehand is because if we start our process of looking for marriage correctly and according to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants it to the T and how He wants it, then we're starting it off blessed. We're starting it off the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants it. But if we start it off in an incorrect manner, in which we know for sure, for a fact, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not approve of this certain action, of the way we're going about it, then imagine you're starting off without the blessings, the full blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's the reason, really the reason why. Because obviously, you can go by your roundabout methods, whatever it may be, and you can get married, and later on you won't notice between the person who got married this way and that way. But what gives you the confidence, the matnan, the comfortability in your heart is the fact that I started this off marriage blessed from the very beginning, without cutting corners, without cutting places. That's really the reason why, like Shaykh Asim was just saying right in the beginning, we're talking about marriage. Yes, anyone can get married, but marriage in what? In Islam, within the Islamic context. So I just kind of want to bring that perspective in, inshallah. And if you keep that in the first in mind, is that even in my marriage, my main focus is like what Shaykh Asim said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's blessings and approval, then inshallah will work itself out. That's your main focus.
Yes.
If you theoretically had a son that was like in his 20s, would you want him to get married like soon?
Well, I told my sons when they did the puberty, when they were in high school, just to be very fair, it's a very good question. So from my side, I told them it's better for you to get married than to be in a haram situation, and I will help you out if that's the case what you want. Even from my side, and I told my friends also, my friend groups, right? So I tell them, look, guys, it is better that your kids are doing the things in the halal way that pleases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than to commit one of the kabira, right? To get involved into a major sin. So myself and including other fathers, whoever I have access to, I tell them, make it easy for the kids to get married. I should actually use the word kids. What I mean by that are children to get married. Because look, it's better that they do it in the right way. Otherwise, the society is pulling and pushing them to go in the wrong way regardless, right? So it's easier for the parents to if one person you are feeding, you can add one more. What's the big deal? Allah is the one who provides, and make it easy for the children to get married. Yeah, I would suggest. If you're asking me, but at the end of the day, of course, it is whoever, my son or my daughter, they want to get married. They are the one getting married. They should be the one who should be ready. They know that they can fulfill the obligation that comes along with it. Okay. So you put him on the spot, man. Yes. Go ahead.
Okay, so we touched upon determining like your readiness for marriage and whatnot, whether you're capable of fulfilling the obligation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on you as a man, as a caretaker and provider of the family, and mental maturity, which goes both ways to the wife and the husband. But you never touched upon the obligation of the wife in the marriage. Could you go over that?
So I kind of talked about that a bit in the beginning. So obligation on the wife is one of the key obligations is the obedience. Okay, obedience comes along with for the wife to be like when I mentioned about which person has the most right upon a woman. When the hadith of Rasulullah was asked about, Rasulullah said, "Your husband." And when asked the husband who has more right over him, it's the mother, right? So the husband has the right and she has to fulfill. And the other hadith that talks about the obligations on the woman or the wife is one is to be obedient, right? Second is to take care of the house or the family. This is part of the obligation that falls on the wife. Now, when it comes to these obligations or the obligation on the husband, they are both actually in reference to obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Both the parties are doing this to obey Allah. Look, the society teaches kind of, going to the husband side of it again, sometimes the sister side, they think of it, oh, does that mean that I am dependent on my husband now? I should be independent woman. These terminologies are used a lot. Look, this is Allah who has placed the rights for you in the husband's wealth in this case. He is not the one who is doing a favor. He's fulfilling the obligation that he's accountable on the day of judgment. That part. Now when it comes to sisters, to be obedient to the husband, do not take care of the house or the children. Now this is an obligation on her placed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And she is accountable for that now. Okay? So when I'm saying obedience, of course, there is husband and wife relationships also. In that case, there is obedience as well. Anything else? Good? Okay. جزاكم الله خيرا. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد ان لا اله الا انت